The Rise and Fall of the Drillys featuring Josh.
In this video, we will be talking about the rise and fall of
You gotta change this shit, bro. You gotta change the fucking voice.
the Drillys. Make sure you guys check out Josh's channel. The link will be in the description. Anyways, let's get into the video.
Hey, okay, who that? They go to Austin at V. Hey, okay, who that? Get up close, we ain't shoot from D. Don't got the V, we gon' walk up on feet.
Well, to start things off, the Drillys are a set of bloodhound brims and also used to have Crips, but we will get into that in a bit. The Drillys are based in the Bronx, with many blocks that rep Drilly, such as 194th, 198th, G-Side, 220th, and much more. One of the leaders of the Drillys is Dumb Out Hound, also known as Dummy. On May 29, 2018, in the early hours of the morning, the G-Side Crips were hosting a barbecue. Dumb Out was playing dice with them, and an argument ensued over the game. The brawl spilled into the streets and Dummy was stabbed in the process. He later died at the hospital. The killing of Dummy caused a war between G-Side Bloods and G-Side Crips. Spaz Drilly, one of the founders alongside Dummy, would be from G-Side Bloods and would later start consistently dropping around early 2020. Spaz Drilly and Good Day Ray would drop a couple of songs.
The Drillys are blood?
Throughout 2020, including their biggest and most known song called Op Spotter. Not all great would last forever, because on July 20th, 2020, NYPD responded to a late-night call regarding a man being shot on 3340 Decatur Avenue. When they arrived, they found 24-year-old James Riviera, or better known in the streets as Lil Lock, suffering at least one gunshot bullet to his back. He was taken to Montefiore Hospital, but it was unfortunately too late and he succumbed to his wounds. There would initially be no arrests made, but thanks to witness testaments, they would find 4 suspects allegedly responsible for the murder, with the main one being Taboo Harris, better known as Spaz Drilly. 2 unidentified residents told the police that the Spaz and the 3 other men initially wanted to rob Lil Lock, but Lil Lock was ready and fired 3 times on the men. A chase ensued, and Spaz and his friends shot 12 times, with Spaz allegedly delivering the fatal blow. Spaz and his friends were arrested on August 12, 2020, for the murder. The Drillys would take a huge loss, with 2 of the top-ranking members taken down, but this is just the start to a great comeback. In early 2022, Lee Drilly, who was from 194th, would start dropping with his first song dropped on his channel named Free Spaz. He would also drop songs with other Drillys like Ewu, Say Drilly, and much more. Around this time,
I wish he dropped way more with Say Drilly. Like, we talk about these 3 like talented drill rappers, Spaz, Lee, and Say. None of them have songs together except Lee and Say. Only like a couple songs.
They would start dropping with YGs like D-Thing, Bando, Yes G's, and a couple of others. A lot of people from RPT can be spotted in most of the Drillys' music videos. Within a couple of months, the Drillys would make a huge name for themselves, with Lee Drilly dropping huge solos like PSA and Many Men. With Lee Drilly and Say Drilly being some of the most lyrical drill rappers coming out of the Bronx, it really put a name for the Drillys and showed how much talent these guys really had. With the Drillys taking W's throughout the rest of 2021, they would take a huge loss, mainly affecting Drillys from 197th and 198th. On December 12th, 2021, in the early hours of the morning, AJ Hound would crash in a drag race, ending his life just weeks before Christmas. Many Drillys would take huge effect by his death, like Say Drilly. In the beginning of Say Drilly songs after the tragic event, he would repeat AJ's name in a sign of respect. With the tragic loss the Drillys took at the end of 2021, it sadly would not end there. On April 6th,
so I got a question, like, Josh is featured in the video, so like what you said you did sections of the video, like how could I tell? You feel me? I can't tell which parts are you explaining and which part is he.
Sadly would not end there. On April 7th, 2022, 20 members would be listed on an indictment called Operation Drilly with 32 charges including murder, stabbings, shootings, and plenty more. One of these murders would be the killing of Delilah. The death of Delilah would take place on March 17th, 2021, where 4 alleged...
I explained the Lil Moker and everything after the first Drilly indictment.
Alleged
Okay.
men were seen walking into a building and walking out, with Delilah sadly dead on the floor with a gunshot wound to the head. Allegedly, they were playing around with a gun and it ended up going off by accident. Both Lee Drilly and Spaz Drilly would be listed on the indictment, with both of them being charged for the Lil Locke murder back in 2020. With Lee Drilly,
and this is something that like I think Spaz got hit with 2 murders. I think it was Lil Loke and I forget who else it was. I don't know what happened with the second murder, but I think he's only charged with the Lil Loke shit right now. Like it was a Drilly indictment, conspiracy, and murder on one case, and then the other case was just a Lil Loke murder. But I think either conspiracy or murder got thrown out, or one of the murders got thrown out, and then Lee Drilly, like he was listed on a murder, and people were just speculating the whole time. Was Delilah? Was it Lil Loke? I ain't gonna lie, like I don't know.
One of the best rappers coming out of the Bronx getting booked, it was a huge disappointment for the Drillys.
What they said, it was like 6 Drilly members. When Lil Loke shot, 4 shot back, and the 4 that got booked was MB. Was it MB? Spaz? It wasn't Lee Drilly though. Unless Lee Drilly was the other 2 out of the 6.
Please. Sadly, this would not be the end. On June 27, 2022, another indictment was unsealed on the Drillys. Lee was unfortunately also included in this one. The indictment accused Lee Drilly and 11 others of operating an open drug market out of an apartment building and using multiple apartments and the lobby to do so. They were distributing
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, if you think he was the other 2, that's fine.
drugs such as crack cocaine,
I've heard
fentanyl,
otherwise.
and heroin. Lee is still fighting
man.
this indictment
He
and
was
faces
in-
up to
in
15
neither.
to 25 years if convicted. On top of this, the Drillys lost 3 more members in the summer of 2022. First, Ray G's, a prominent 9'8 Drilly, was unfortunately shot by an off-duty police officer who had mistaken his gel shooter for a real weapon. Most people tend to just look at this as
It's not confusing, cause like I've heard different shit, and like I don't know, but it's just cause the indictment came down. When the indictment came down, it says the time of the incident is like September in 2020 when the indictment started, like the first event of the indictment.
another senseless act of police brutality, but that isn't necessarily the case. It happened at 1 a.m., so it was very dark out, and Ray fired at the cop out of nowhere, so the officer was like,
I just look at it like Lee Drilly all the way up in G side. Like I know he be on G side, but just him being there with the other Drilly members is unlikely.
afraid for his life. I'm not saying this paint Ray G's in a bad light, and he certainly didn't deserve to die over this, but it just goes to show you how tragic things can get in an instant. Also, J.E.K., a 14-year-old 9'8 Drilly, the younger brother of Styles Hound, was with his friends while they were playing with a gun. The gun accidentally went off, striking Jay in the chest, and he unfortunately passed. Another senseless killing which could have easily been avoided. Last but sadly not least, K. Pluto, an older Drilly member, was in a deli when an op confronted him. The op stabbed Pluto and then ran. Pluto chased the op and attempted to shoot him, but an on-duty police officer saw this unfold and shot Pluto in the head, killing him. If you notice, none of these passings had anything to do with ops, and yet they still get dissed constantly. It's sad how people will go to any length to disrespect their ops, even dissing rivals who they didn't do anything to.
Yeah, and I just like the weird thing with Bronx Chill. Like when I was watching fucking these documentaries, and Diddy didn't even die to no op, and you feel me, he wasn't even outside, he was just a civilian. It's just like, bro, like it just gets corny to a point. And I know every block does it, so I can't call Bronx Chill as a whole corny, but it's like, I don't know, bro, that shit is weird to me. Like I understand motherfuckers is in the streets and shit like that, but y'all just civilians just how it's cool with the people that you got problems with. It makes no sense.
Thankfully, it wasn't all.
And Julie's one of them ones that got like so many people that passed away that didn't even die in no street shit.
All bad for the Drillys. With Lee being locked up, the other Drillys had to pick up the torch, and in my opinion, nobody had more potential than, say, Drilly. I know people like to think his run started in 2021, but besides Drilly G's Lee, he didn't really have any standout verses. He had multiple fire drops in 2022, such as Dirt Off Your Shoulder, Hit the Quan with Murda G, Spin My Way with G Gotti, and one of the best drops of the year, Leave Me Alone. Even though he had a consistency problem throughout the year, there was always 2023 to look forward to, right? Anyways, it wasn't just Say Drilly dropping music. Iwoo had drops like And This Hoe with Ja Save, Taking That Trip, and a bonus song, Bet with Lee Drilly. Murda G had songs like 300K and Hit the Quan with Say Drilly. LA had songs like Beggin', Free to Town with Iwoo, and Every O Shot with SLIXZZ and Murda G. SLIXZZ also had a mega hit with Off the Mud Part 2 with M.EBK and Eddie G's. Unfortunately, 2022 didn't end great for the Drillys. There were also alliance issues on the horizon. Yes G's and Say Drilly had been going back and forth for months. First, back when Yes was claiming he was the face of the Bronx, Say Drilly felt the need to chime in and call out Yes for claiming the face, because he thought Lee was the face. Then, when Yes previewed the remix to Warzone Part 2 with 22 G's, Say Drilly felt away because he was GDK, so seeing Yes collaborate with his ops made him upset. This led to Yes G's calling out Say.
It wasn't even. I feel like it wasn't even that for Say Drilly. I feel like it was more of like was it Stain Blicky? I forget bro name, bro. Stain Blicky was the one disrespecting Dumb Out. You feel me? Yushi's gonna fuck with the Drillys, Jack They Deads. And you doing a song with 22G, someone that's cool with Stain Blicky?
Drilly.
I feel like that was more the reason. You know what I mean? Because
Yes collaborate
it's Drilly G
with his ops made him upset. This led to Yes G's calling out Say Drilly and claiming 98K, which if you didn't know is Say Drilly's block. Then other 9-8 members like Iwoo and SLIXZZ went back and forth with Yes about the whole thing, and dissing Yes for getting shot and not putting on.
Bro, I remember I made like a 20-minute video just reading off the fucking back and forth, bro. Yami G was in there talking.
After Yes broke up with Hillary, he ended up jacking Drilly K as a whole and dissing Lee Drilly while he was behind bars for allegedly flirting with her behind Yes' back. Other YG rappers such as Nesty Floxx and Shad G's got involved, and it was looking like Drilly G's Lee was starting to fall apart. Sadly, this would be the least of the Drillys' worries as more incarcerations were on the horizon. On July 27, 2022, NYPD responded to a report of a man with 2 gunshot wounds to his head and 1 to his hip. This man was Jays Niver, or known by his friends as Chaco. He was a known Southside member and was mourned by many DOA members such as Sticky B, Dougie B, and J.Geek. It doesn't end there, however. The police caught up with 2 suspects in the following months, but on October 15, 2022, they arrested 18-year-old David Polanco, or better known as David Drilly, charging.
And I always thought, like, why is Murda G and David Drilly in the same spot together? Makes sense.
Him in connection of the murder of Chaco. This was another loss for the Drillys. Even though David didn't have many verses out, he had a lot of unreleased and could have been one of the ones to carry the torch for the Drillys. David wouldn't be the last Drilly arrested that year, however. On October 30th, 2022, Say Drilly and Murda G were arrested in New Jersey on carjacking charges after a high-speed chase with the police. Say Drilly ended up being released shortly after, but sadly Murda G was never released and remains in prison to this day. Even with all that happening, there were still many Drillys with their freedom like Say Drilly, Iwoo, SLIXZZ, and LA. All they had to do was stay consistent in 2023, and they could carry the torch like they had in 2022.
That makes no sense, bro. And it's like, bro, I always look back at that interview, that P Films interview, when Sage was like, oh, I had that talk with Murda G, we gonna take this rap shit serious. And it's like, boom, he catch a gun charge, gotta plead guilty to that. Okay, you might have to sit down for a couple years. It's cool. Boom, catch a 1 charge in beginning of March. Gotta turn myself in April, by the way. Catch 1 in March, they release me. Okay, get picked up 2 weeks later. Now I got 3 gun charges. One I already pled guilty to, and now I'm looking at however long with 2 other gun charges. Like it's just very unfortunate, bro. Hopefully, spank both them charges. Got to sit down for like a year and a half, be home by 2024. Cause it's like all these Drilly members that are out here, like none of them got the same potential as these 3. None of them are as consistent, take rap serious as these 3, and free Drilly.
in 2023,
crazy.
and they could carry the torch like they had in 2022. Fast forwarding a couple of months into 2023, the Drillys were extremely quiet and were not dropping any heat as the year goes by. Sadly, it would not get any easier for the Drillys because on March 28, 2023, Say Drilly would have to turn himself in for previous charges. He would originally be fighting an attempted murder charge, but this would later be dismissed. At the moment, he is fighting a gun charge and also plead guilty to assault with the intent of physical harm and is currently awaiting sentencing. This would be a big loss for the Drillys, mainly because Say Drilly was the Drillys' biggest rapper that was free. As Say Drilly case unfolds, bigger problems would be on our hands. M.EBK, a close friend to many Drillys like SLIXZZ, would sadly pass away.
Yeah, bro. I released my video and people saying, oh, why'd you do M.Dot? Why didn't you talk about M.Dot passing away? He was Drilly.
He was shot and killed in the Bronx early July 5th morning as most were still outside celebrating 4th of July. He was the victim of a double shooting and was hit by a bullet to his leg, which was sadly enough to cut his life short. He was mainly known from his outstanding verse on Off the Mud Part 2, which is currently sitting at 6.5 million.
And one thing I say about M.Dot, bro, he was the only one after Say Drilly got locked up, after Off the Mud. Wait, no, I'm chatting. After Off the Mud Part 2, you see the other two names on this shit. SLIXZZ has dropped 2 tracks since then. Eddie G's dropped a feature or 2. M.Dot was the only one being consistent on this shit, trying to garner the views. It's on his channel. The Off the Mud Part 2 is on his channel, but he was the only one trying to like back that shit up with another hit and drop after that. Hate
views.
that shit.
Many Drillys and YGs would take a loss of the murder of M.EBK. Well, sadly, this brings us to present date, where the Drillys' top roster would sadly find themselves in jail fighting heavy charges. As many Drillys are still free, they either inconsistent or haven't been able to find the success.
I ain't gonna lie, one thing I missed was the Good Day Ray situation. I was like on edge about that shit.
The other Drillys were able to find. Hopefully, the few Drillys we have like SLIXZZ and Ewu can manage to.
Because that was low-key big, like Good Day Ray getting kicked off the, being so close to Spaz, having songs with Spaz, being kicked off the block, being labeled a rat, and then fucking sent all the way out to the fucking Blickies and gotta do songs with them now.
To pull together and put the Drillys back on the map like they once were. Let me know what other videos you guys would like to see me do. Anyways, that will be it for today.
Type shit. The reason why Drillys really fall off is because they actually put in work. I don't think so. Free them. If they would have focused on music instead of drilling ops, they would be up right now. A lot of people get locked up after they start rapping for shit they did before they rapped. That's why the music's so genuine.